Mira loved nature. She always said, "The forest feels like home." For the past 3 days, she had been living alone in a small wooden cabin near the black pine forest. It was peaceful, quiet, and perfect for her photography project. No people. No noise, only trees, birds, and wind. While Mira was editing photos inside her cabin, she suddenly heard a sound. It was soft at first, like a baby crying. At first, she thought it was just an animal, but the sound came again. Louder this time. A long, sad, high-pitched cry. It didn't sound like any animal she knew. She opened the door slowly. The cold wind brushed her face. The forest was dark. The moon was hiding behind thick clouds. Only the cry was clear that it was coming from deep inside the forest. Mira hesitated. "Should I go?" she whispered to herself. Her heart beat faster. She grabbed her flashlight and camera, put on her jacket, and stepped into the trees. The sound led her deeper into the woods. Crunch, crunch. Her boots made soft noises on the fallen leaves. The forest felt different tonight. Too quiet, too still. Even the owls weren't hooting. It was like the trees were holding their breath. After walking for about 10 minutes, she reached a small clearing. That's when she saw it. In the middle of the clearing, lying on the ground, was a small creature. It was not like anything she had ever seen before. It looked like a baby leopard, but not exactly. Its fur shimmered with soft blue light, like stars trapped in its body. Its eyes were big and glowing. And it was crying, not loudly, but with a soft, sad sound. Mira slowly stepped closer. The creature looked at her but didn't move. It was shivering and had a small cut on its leg. Mira knelt beside it. "Hey, it's okay. I won't hurt you," she said softly. The creature stared into her eyes. And for a moment, it felt like it understood her. Very gently, Mira wrapped the baby alien leopard in her scarf. It didn't fight. It just kept looking at her with those big glowing eyes. She held it close to her chest. It was warm and very light, like it weighed nothing. Suddenly, she felt something strange, like a wave inside her mind. A short flash of images she couldn't understand, a forest on fire, stars, a large cat-like creature roaring, and then darkness. She blinked fast. What was that? She looked around quickly. Everything was silent, but her skin was cold with fear. She turned and started walking back to the cabin, holding the cub tightly. She didn't notice the shadow that moved behind the trees. Something was watching her. A tall shape, almost invisible in the dark, with glowing red eyes. Stepped back into the forest as she walked away. Back at the cabin, Mira placed the baby leopard gently on a soft blanket. She cleaned the wound and gave it some water. It looked at her the whole time, silent now, no longer crying. Mira sat beside it and took a deep breath. "What are you?" she asked. The creature blinked slowly, as if thinking. She reached for her phone to call someone, but it had no signal. No bars, no internet, nothing. She looked out the window. The forest was quiet again. Too quiet. Then, without warning, the lights in the cabin flickered. 1, 2, 3 times. And then, off. Complete darkness. Mira froze. The creature looked toward the window and made a soft growl. A deep, vibrating sound. She quickly grabbed her flashlight. The batteries were fine. She pointed the light out the window. For a second, just a second, she saw 2 large red eyes between the trees. Watching. Waiting. Mira stepped back. Whatever this creature was, it was not alone, and something or someone was coming. She turned back to the cub. It was now asleep, curled up like a small glowing ball of light. Mira sat on the floor beside it, confused and scared. But one thing she knew for sure. This was not an animal from Earth. And the night was far from over. Mira woke up on the wooden floor. Her head hurt. The flashlight was still on, rolling slowly on the ground beside her. She sat up quickly. Her heart raced. "The cub!" she whispered. Her eyes turned toward the blanket. The cub was still there, glowing softly, sleeping peacefully. But something was different. Mira looked at her arm. There was a faint mark on her skin now. A small blue shape, like a glowing tattoo. It looked like a star and an eye joined together. She hadn't seen it before. It was warm to the touch. "What is happening?" she whispered. Suddenly, the cub opened its eyes. Not slowly, but all at once. Like it already knew she was awake. It stared at her. And then Mira felt it. A voice, not from the outside, but from inside her mind. "Don't be afraid." Mira froze. She looked around the room. No one was there. The cub hadn't spoken with its mouth, but she had heard it inside her head. She crawled slowly toward the cub. "Was that you?" The cub tilted its head. "You saw the sky, the fire, the fall. You touched me. Now we are linked." Mira's hands shook. "Linked? What do you mean?" The cub didn't answer with words this time. Instead, it showed her a memory, a flash in her mind. She saw space, black and endless, a ship flying fast, chased by something huge. A mother leopard, the same glowing fur, the same bright eyes, roaring and placing the cub in an escape pod. Then a crash. Silence. Mira pulled back, gasping. She was sweating now. "That's your mother?" The cub made a soft sound. Not a cry this time, a soft hum. Mira understood. It missed her. It was scared. And it didn't come from Earth. Just then, her phone screen blinked, not from a message, but from a warning. "Magnetic pulse detected. Government alert. Stay indoors." Mira stared at it. Magnetic pulse? From what? She looked outside. The forest trees were shaking. But there was no wind. Birds flew out in large groups. A loud hum echoed from the forest, deep and vibrating. The cub stood up. Its back arched. It looked toward the door. "She is near." Mira swallowed. "Your mother?" The cub didn't answer. It walked slowly to the door and sat down, staring. Mira followed. She opened the door carefully, not knowing what to expect. The forest was glowing now, very faintly, like the plants had tiny lights inside them. And in the far distance, something moved between the trees, huge, silent, watching. Two glowing red eyes blinked once, then disappeared. Mira felt the ground shake slightly. She turned to the cub. "She's not here to hurt me, right?" The cub looked at her. "Not if you protect me." That line hit Mira like a wave. This wasn't just about an alien baby. She was in the middle of something much bigger. She backed into the cabin and locked the door. Suddenly, the cub climbed onto her lap. It curled up, warm, trusting. It looked at her once more, and Mira felt something powerful, like she had a second heartbeat now, like she was no longer alone in her own mind. Mira looked at the mark on her arm again. She didn't know how or why, but this creature had chosen her. Somewhere out there, its mother was watching. Waiting. And she was not going to stay silent for long. The sound began at 3:17 a.m. Not loud, not sudden. It was like the earth itself was humming. Low, slow, deep. Mira sat up in bed, her eyes wide open. The cub was already awake, standing at the window. Its tail twitched. Outside, the trees were moving, but not from wind. They were bending, almost like they were making a path. Then, the lights in the cabin flickered again. This time, they didn't turn back on. Complete darkness. Mira reached for her flashlight, her hands shaking. "What now?" she whispered. The cub didn't answer. It just stared at the forest. "She is close," it said in her mind. Mira's breath caught in her throat. The silence outside had weight, like the whole world was holding still. And then, she saw two glowing red eyes, floating just above the ground between the trees. No sound, no footsteps. Just those eyes, unmoving, unblinking. Then something stepped forward, massive, beautiful, Terrifying, the mother alien. Leopard. Her body shimmered like black glass under the moonlight, covered in star-like patterns that moved. And changed. Her fur looked alive, glowing and shifting like liquid. But her eyes, they were not kind. They were full of ancient intelligence. And rage. Mira couldn't move. She was face to face with something that did not belong on Earth. The cub made a soft cry and pushed the door with its paw. Mira's heart dropped. No, don't go out there. But the cub opened the door with its mind. The cold air rushed in. The mother stepped closer, slow and quiet. Mira stood frozen, watching the two alien creatures look at each other. Then, the mother looked at her. And in that moment, Mira understood what real fear felt like, not because the creature growled or attacked, but because it didn't. It just stared at her. And sent a message directly into her thoughts. You touched what is mine. Mira stepped back. I was only trying to help, she said aloud. The mother didn't move. She looked at her cub again, then back at Mira. Another message hit her mind, colder this time. You carry the mark. Now you are part of the link. The mark on Mira's arm burned slightly. She looked down. It was glowing brighter than before. The cub walked forward, touched noses with its mother, and purred softly. A long pause followed. The mother stepped closer and lowered her head. Mira's breath stopped. She was ready to be attacked, but instead, the mother sniffed her once and turned around. Without a sound, she disappeared into the forest. Gone, just like that. Mira collapsed to her knees. What just happened? She whispered. The cub turned and walked back to her slowly. But now, Mira noticed something horrifying. Its eyes weren't glowing anymore. She picked it up. It was cold, weak. The energy it had yesterday was gone. No, stay with me, she said, holding it tight. But the cub didn't respond. It just lay there in her arms. And then Mira understood. The mother hadn't come for the cub. She had left it behind. Why? Why would a mother leave her child? Unless she wanted Mira to take care of it now, or worse. She knew what was coming next. The forest was breathing. Mira could feel it. The air wasn't still anymore. It pulsed. Like a giant invisible heart was beating under the ground. Each step she took felt heavier than the last. The cub was wrapped tightly inside her backpack, weak and silent. Its glow had almost faded. Time was running out, and she knew where she had to go. The crash site. It wasn't marked on any map, but in her dreams, the cub had shown her a place beyond the fence. A part of the forest everyone called the zone. No one ever came back. From there. Most people thought it was just military land. Mira now knew better. She reached the old barbed wire fence just before sunrise. A rusty sign read, "Restricted area, trespassers will disappear, not prosecuted." Disappear. She didn't care. She cut through the wire using an old metal tool from her cabin and slipped into the forbidden woods. At first, nothing seemed different. But within minutes, the forest changed. Trees here were twisted, almost spiral-like. Their bark glowed faint purple. The ground was soft, not with mud, but something like dust from the stars. The air smelled like burned metal and wildflowers at the same time. Birds didn't sing here. There was only silence. And movement. Small, glowing orbs floated between the trees like fireflies. But when Mira looked closer, they weren't insects. They were watching her. As she walked deeper, her compass spun wildly. Her phone went black again. Even her watch stopped ticking. Time didn't work here. Then through the morning fog, she saw it, a crater, about 30 feet wide, burnt into the ground. In the center, a broken metallic pod, half buried, covered in strange black vines. She stepped closer. The pod wasn't made by humans. Its surface was smooth, but not metal. It felt alive under her fingers, warm, like skin. She found markings, the same as the glowing symbol on her arm. She whispered, "This is where you came from." The cub stirred weakly inside her bag. Suddenly, a loud clicking sound echoed. Behind her, she spun around. There were cameras, small ones, half hidden in the trees, watching her. Then, voices. She ducked behind the pod just in time. Two men in black suits walked into the clearing, holding scanning devices. They looked calm, too calm for what was around them. No signs of the mother in this zone, one said. The cub must be with her. High energy readings detected near the old cabin. HQ wants it alive. Mira's heart pounded. They were looking for the cub. She clutched her bag tightly. No way, she whispered. You're not taking it. But as she turned to leave, she stepped on a broken branch. Crack. The men turned instantly. Someone's here. Laser sights lit up around her. She ran through the twisted trees, through glowing fog. Her body screamed, but she didn't stop. Behind her, red lights danced through the forest. Drones, voices shouting, footsteps chasing. She kept running until she fell down a slope, through thick roots, into a narrow tunnel hidden beneath the forest. Darkness swallowed her, but when she opened her eyes, the tunnel walls were glowing dot symbols all around her, pulsing gently, and ahead, a door, not wooden, not metal. Something in between, round and humming with energy. As she stepped forward, the cub stirred again. It opened its eyes, weak but glowing. This place knows us. Mira placed her hand on the door. The symbol on her arm lit up, bright and burning. The door opened with a deep, slow groan. Inside was not a room. It was a chamber of stars, floating lights, machines like plants, a strange map of Earth glowing on the ceiling, and a whisper in her mind. They have come before. They watched. They warned. Now, they remember. Mira stood still. The truth was bigger than she could imagine. She hadn't just found a lost alien cub. She had stepped into a story millions of years old, and now, she was part of it. The stars were fake. Mira didn't understand it at first. The glowing ceiling inside the underground chamber looked like space, a map of galaxies. But when she stared closer, the stars began to shift, rearrange, and point to one place. Earth. A red ring pulsed around it, and then the room went dark. Suddenly light, blinding white light. Mira blinked fast. The alien map was gone. The chamber had disappeared. She wasn't in the forest anymore. She was in a lab, cold metal walls, bright ceiling lights, a table, restraints. She was strapped down. No, what is this? She shouted, pulling her arms, her voice echoing. A voice spoke from above. Calm, too calm. You were not supposed to enter the core chamber. But now that you have, we need to ask you a few questions. Mira looked around. Where's the cub? Where is it? Another voice answered, colder. Safe, for now. The door opened. Two people walked in. A woman in a gray coat. A man in military uniform. The woman leaned in. You bonded with it, didn't you? Mira didn't answer. The man spoke next. That mark on your arm. It's not just a symbol. It's a link. You're carrying data. Their data. Mira's eyes widened. Data? You think it's just tech? The woman chuckled. It's more than tech. It's memory, history, power. She tapped her tablet. We've been trying to copy it for years, but only one method ever worked. She turned the screen. On it, a video feed. The cub. Trapped inside. A glowing cube, its body flickering, weak, barely moving. Mira shouted, "Let it go." The man leaned forward. You don't understand. That creature isn't just alien. It's a key, one we need. Its kind crashed here 50 years ago. One survived. The mother. She disappeared. But we always knew she'd return. If we took what mattered most. Mira froze. The cub wasn't lost. It was bait. The woman continued. We triggered the crash signal. We led the mother here. But she's not responding the way we expected. She looked Mira in the eyes. You changed the plan. Because you bonded with the cub. Now it sees you as one of them. The man added coldly, so now we need you too. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Then everything shook. The entire lab trembled like an earthquake hit. An alarm sounded. Code red. Breach in Sector 7. The scientists looked at each other. Fear in their eyes. She's here, the woman whispered. Mira smiled. Good. Another rumble, louder this time. Lights exploded above. Screams echoed in the hallways. The man cursed and ran out. The woman followed. Mira looked up. The restraints opened by themselves. Click, click. She stood up. The cub's voice entered her mind again, soft but urgent. They wanted to use us. But they don't understand what they touched. Mira grabbed the tablet and ran into the corridor. It was chaos. Walls were cracked. Lights flickered. Soldiers shouted. The air felt heavy, like something massive was moving just above them. As she turned a corner, a blast door burst open, torn like paper, and there stood the mother, glowing, furious. Electricity ran across her fur like lightning. Her eyes were pure fire now. The soldiers raised their weapons. Mira stepped in front. Don't shoot, she screamed. She's here for her child, nothing else. But they fired anyway. The bullets hit the mother and stopped in mid-air. Frozen. Then reversed. The soldiers fell instantly. The mother stepped forward. Mira stood between her and the lab. She raised her hands. I have your cub. He's alive. I kept him safe. The mother stared at her. The mark on Mira's arm lit up again. A beam of light came from the mother's chest, not a weapon, but a connection. It touched Mira's forehead. And then she saw it. Everything. Whole planets. Old wars, peace treaties. Between stars. A warning left long ago. If humans try to steal what is not theirs, the balance will break. Mira fell to her knees, gasping. The mother looked at her once more and said, not with words, but through thought, you tried to protect him. You are not like the others, but you're kind. They are not ready. And then the mother vanished. No sound. Just gone. Mira looked down. The cub was in her arms again, glowing softly. Stronger now. The facility around her burned. But she was alive. And so was the secret. Silence after the storm is never real silence. It just means something worse is coming. Mira stood in the middle of the destroyed corridor. Walls cracked, lights sparking, burnt equipment. The smell of melted metal and fear. The cub was alive in her arms, its eyes glowing. Again, brighter than ever. The bond between them now felt stronger, deeper. It wasn't just emotion anymore. It was purpose. Footsteps echoed down the hallway behind her. Not fast, not panicked. Slow, measured. She turned around. The female scientist in the gray coat was still alive, limping but calm. Her face was half burned, yet her eyes still held that same cold hunger. She's not done yet, the woman whispered. Do you feel it? Mira didn't answer, because she did feel it. The ground vibrate did that, not from machines, from her, the alien. Mother was no longer hiding in shadows or stalking from the trees. She had entered the human world. And she was angry. Far above them, on the surface, the sky had turned purple-black. Clouds spun in wide circles like something was pulling the entire atmosphere inward. Electricity danced across the clouds like a living storm. Suddenly, a deafening sound filled the underground facility, a roar. Not from the throat. From the mind. Everyone heard it, inside their skulls. Some screamed and collapsed. Others simply froze in place, eyes wide with terror. Mira stayed standing. The cub looked at her. She's calling the core. The what? The planet's memory. Before Mira could ask more, a blast tore through the ceiling above them. The mother leopard dropped down like a comet, covered in fire, eyes glowing white. But she didn't attack Mira. She walked past her, straight to the main control room. The woman in the lab coat shouted, "Don't let her near the vault." Too late. The mother touched the center console, and the entire facility shut down. Every screen went black. Every weapon turned cold. Every system died. A quiet, shaking voice came from the intercom. "This is command. We've lost all control." It's listening to her. The mother had taken over the technology. Machines responded to her like children to a parent. She stepped into the vault room. Myra followed. The cub still in her arms. Inside the vault were artifacts. Things not made by humans, hidden from the public for decades. Alien crystals. Star maps. A sphere that pulsed like a heart. And in the middle of it all, a glowing black cube. The mother placed her paw on the cube. The cube split open, revealing a silver sphere floating inside. "This is why we came," the cub said softly. "This holds the last memory of our kind. They tried to open it by force, but it only opens to a bonded soul." The mother turned and looked directly at Mira. She stepped forward. "You have the mark," the cub said. "You're the bridge." Mira stepped closer. The sphere floated toward her and touched her chest. Her mind filled with sound. Images. History. Truth. Humans had made contact 50 years ago and covered it up. They broke peace with greed. They hunted the aliens. They destroyed a peaceful ship to get power from something they didn't understand. And now, the balance between worlds was cracked. The memory ended. The cub looked at Mira. She gave them a chance to explain. But now, she's done asking. The walls began to collapse around them. Red alarms flashed. Backup generators screamed. Military helicopters buzzed overhead. Mira turned to the mother. "Please, don't destroy everything. Then speak for them." The voice came into her mind. "Stand between us and the fire." Mira stepped out of the vault. Soldiers aimed at her instantly. She held up her hands. "The war is over," she shouted. "She's not your enemy, you are." Guns shook. Then they dropped. Not by choice. The weapons melted in the soldiers' hands. The mother appeared behind Mira, huge, glowing, unstoppable. She didn't attack. She didn't roar. She simply stood still, and the storm above went silent. The cub jumped from Mira's arms and climbed onto its mother's back. They turned to leave, but just before they disappeared into the purple fog outside, the mother spoke one last time into Myra's mind. "We will not forget you. But if your kind ever touches what is not theirs again, we will not return as teachers. We will return as fire." And just like that, they vanished. 3 days had passed. The forest had stopped glowing. The skies were blue again. Too blue, like nothing had ever happened. But Mira knew better. She stood at the edge of the black pine forest, staring into the trees where the mother and cub had vanished. There were no signs left behind, no footprints, no scorch marks, no broken branches, just stillness, and the mark on her arm, still glowing faintly beneath her skin. The world had no answers. The government called it a meteor strike and shut down all questions. No news. No reports. Just silence. But Mira remembered every sound, every word spoken without speaking, every warning, and she couldn't forget, because something inside her had changed. At night, she still heard the cub's voice in her dreams, sometimes playful. Sometimes afraid, and sometimes whispering things she didn't understand yet. She thought it was over, until the sky cracked open again. At first, it looked like a shooting star, but it was too slow. Too controlled, too deliberate. She followed its path as it descended, glowing red, not blue like the first time, and this time, it didn't crash in the forest. It landed in the city. Mira drove all night. She reached the impact zone just before dawn. It wasn't a crater. It was a perfect circle. At the center, a new pod. But different. Rougher. Sharper. Its edges pulsed red, not silver. And standing around it were men in black. Not scientists, not military. Something else. They were scanning it. waiting for it to open. Myra's heart sank. This wasn't from the Cub's family. It wasn't soft. It wasn't peaceful. It was something else. She stepped forward, hand glowing faintly. Suddenly, the pod responded. Just to her. It opened. Inside was nothing, just darkness. But from that darkness, a voice came. You opened the door. You sent the signal. Now we come. Myra stumbled back, eyes wide. Whatever had been watching Earth before? It wasn't just the Cubs people. There were others, and they had been waiting. The sky above shimmered. Stars blinked in odd patterns. A second moon appeared, or something shaped like one. And then it moved. Not falling. Descending. Calm. Silent. Heavy. The presence pressing against the world. Myra looked at the agents. Their faces were pale. They didn't know what to do. She stepped forward again. The mark on her arm now burned brighter than ever. And then she heard the Cub's voice one last time. You are the bond now. The bridge between your kind and what comes next. Myra looked up at the sky, not afraid. Not confused. Just ready. Because sometimes the greatest stories don't end. They begin again.